Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 Early Access action. Today we're going to be taking a look at Norsca. As you can see, Throgg has finally made his way all the way down here to the jungle to face off against the Lizardmen. Turin is actually going to be commanding the Norskins here, and I'm going to be taking the Lizardmen led by Kroq-Gar, so we're definitely in for a clash of heavyweights. Let's get to the army compositions. First up, for Norsca, of course, we've got Throgg, the Troll King, regeneration, as all trolls have. He also has Frostbite, armor-piercing, anti-large, solid combat stats, only 55 armor, but that regeneration makes him pretty tanky. He also has a Copious Vomit, which is essentially a breath attack. It's actually pretty decent against armored infantry. Haven't really tried it against too many other targets, but seems to be okay. Fight or Die is an area of effect, melee attack, and leadership. Most factions have a melee defense and leadership bonus, but for the Norskins, they have this fight or die effect instead. We've also got the Wintertooth Crown, which is an area of effect unbreakable. Very, very strong, especially when you're facing terror-causing factions. Then we've got a Famir Balefiend here. This is a special caster for the Norskins. I believe he can take shadows, fire, and maybe one more. I think that might be it. I'll have to double check. But anyway, we've got a Balefiend Lord of Shadows here. So Famir in general, these nasty, excuse me, one-eyed, purple-handed, creepy creatures. They generally have armor-piercing melee attacks. They also have magic and armor sundering, so layering Famir on top of Norscan Berserkers is a very, very good idea. The Famir Balefiend, of course, has a Lore of Shadows, one of the most powerful lores in the game. We've also got two Famir with great weapons. They have anti-large, armor-piercing, as most great weapon monsters infantry do. Again, armor sundering, magic damage, and armor-piercing with good melee defense, and 110 armor. This is actually an incredibly strong monstrous infantry unit. And yeah, I definitely think they're going to be a staple of Norscan play going forward. We've got some Berserkers up front with a couple of Marauder champions to screen out. This is a more elite tier Marauder unit. They're a little bit more heavily armored. They have 80 armor, pretty decent melee defense at 53, so a good defensive sword and board elite tier unit. I say elite tier, they're about 1,000 points, I believe, so kind of an elite tier unit. We've also got some Norscan Warhounds out of the flanks with some Norscan Ice Wolves. Ice Wolves are interesting in that they are a large unit. Most hound units count as infantry size, whereas these Norscan Ice Wolves, you can see from their tooltip here, are large unit. They also come in a smaller model size, but they have much higher weapon strength and charge bonus than your typical hound units. Wherever those Norscan Warhounds went off to, we can kind of compare. You can see they have much larger charge bonus, defense, armor, more models, but the Norscan Ice Wolves providing that frostbite effect as well, which is going to be very, very important. Minus 36% speed, very strong. And that about rounds it out for the Norskins. We've also got some Hunter Javelins in the back. These guys are anti-large, quote-unquote non-AP, although they do have a 15 bonus versus the large, which adds a considerable amount to their missile damage. But anyway, for the Lizardmen, we've got some Fire Leech Bolas. I figured we could see Skin Wolves, Throgg, or other regenerating units, so I wanted to try out the Fire Leech Bolas, see how they would do here. They're also going to be decent against unarmored infantry, so again, they'll be theoretically good here. We've got a front line of Skink Cohort with Javelins backed up by 3 Temple Guard. Just in my anecdotal experience, the Norskins tend to struggle with elite tier halberds somewhat, usually because you're layering Famir on top of Berserkers. You know, obviously, elite tier halberds will counter the Famir. So we've also got a Revification Crystal, Kroq-Gar here up on his mount, Skink Priest, Lore of Heavens, and a Skink Chief to lead the Pterodon squad, and that's pretty much it. So without further ado, let's get the battle into full gear, and we'll watch as things unfold. And sorry about my voice, guys. It's a little bit rough tonight, but we'll try and push through here. So first things first, we're going to unload a volley of these Fire Leech Bolas on Throgg, and it actually doesn't really make that great of contact. Some of them coming back into this Regiment of Renown unit of Marauders here, the Icehorn Marauders. These guys have Perfect Vigor, which is a very, very strong attribute. They've also got Immune to Psychology, so a decent low-tier Regiment of Renown. They are a little bit expensive for what you actually get out of them, but they have solid combat stats at 41 attack, 39 defense, so I'm definitely a fan of the Icehorn Marauders. Meanwhile, the Skink Chief poking away at Throgg here, but you can see the Norscan Rush running downhill, of course. Since I have skirmish advantage, I want to try and take as much time as possible. I could even stand to move my forces a little bit further back. You can see Kroq-Gar showing exactly what he thinks of the Norskins, turning his tail towards them. And yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a mistake. You can see Ice Wolves coming in here. They'll actually get some really nice work done against these Javelin Skinks. It's really going to be a rough time for the poor little Skink boys. And then the Brutes of the Hound, Regiment of Renown Berserkers following up. These guys are unbreakable. So that's their special attribute, of course, unbreakable units. Very, very strong. And you can see the Famir and the Balefiend coming in for an alpha strike in the center as Throgg comes in and lays an absolute whomping on Kroq-Gar here. We're going to drop Curse of the Midnight Wind to debuff the melee attack and more of the units in his pocket, but still, Kroq-Gar's taking quite a bit of damage. The Famir with great weapons, of course, have anti-large AP. Throgg has anti-large AP, so yeah, the dinos, the one thing about Norsca is they're kind of designed to kill monsters. So the dinos are going to have a rough time if you go dino heavy like I did here. You can see the Elite Tier Halberds, the Temple Guard are holding out well enough, but as their armor gets sundered by the Famir, Temple Guard don't have a crazy amount of armor to begin with, so they're down to only 55. The Berserkers will be able to do some pretty good work with that low of armor. So yeah, unfortunately, the Javelins unloading into my Pterodon Riders, doing some pretty nice work there. Balance power still pretty close, though. I mean, Kroq-Gar, of course, does have 9 lives, so we're going to try and disengage here and just let my Temple Guards do some work. They are currently doing some damage to the Famir. You can see both units of Famir with great weapons have definitely taken some severe damage. Gary, the old Revocation Crystal, just hanging out on the side here, trying to preserve his charges as much as possible, but we do drop the Cold-Blooded and then use the Harmonic Convergence to counter Enfeebling Foe here. But once that Cold-Blooded wears off, unfortunately, Kroq-Gar does rout. The Ice Wolves are terrified away just a little bit too late. The Frostbite allowed Throgg to catch him there, and now Kroq-Gar gets routed off, so we're starting to get a little behind on the balance power. You can see these Temple Guard taking some friendly fire from the Fire Leech Bolas, but we're just trying to finish off these Berserkers desperately here. Brutes of the Hound are unbreakable. Most of the other infantry has been dealt with somewhat. Got some rallying skinks in the back line. This unit of Temple Guard, unfortunately, is surrounded. And even without the armor sundering, Berserkers will just trade pretty well against Temple Guard, especially once they start to reach their higher tiers of Enrage, where they get extra physical resistance and melee attack. They are going to be pretty well matched against the Temple Guards, despite the Temple Guards' heavy armor there. A Wind Blast coming through, doing some great damage to those Marauders. Unfortunately, those were mostly Marauder champions. I didn't quite notice that, so not as efficient as it could have been. But yeah, Kroq-Gar briefly rallied here. Unfortunately, the Enfeebling Foe and combining with the Cold-Blooded that I had cast, just putting his combat stats in the absolute dirt. So I'm going to try and pull away here, maybe use these skinks to screen, see if we can get a couple more charges of Cold-Blooded. But unfortunately, Gary the Revification Crystal has been routed off. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, there he is. Looks like the Brutes of the Hound, they're unbreakable, so they're going to start pursuing. And unfortunately, they are going to be able to chase Gary off the side here. That's going to finish off my healing. So while Kroq-Gar still has plenty of healing cap space left, and if we were able to heal him back up, it would be very, very powerful. Because Gary gets routed off here, and I don't have any units that are fast enough to stop this from happening, it's going to be a very, very rough situation. You can see Temple Guard finishing off those Marauder champions, and now moving. We're trying to finish off these Javelins, who actually have used up all their ammo, so a little bit of a waste at that point. But I just don't want to go near this Famir and Throgg Death Star. You can see the Temple Guard pushing through. A few Fire Leech Bolas left, but the Famir and, oh, the Vomit coming in as well, taking out some of those Temple Guard, and then the Famir following up with Throgg close in tow. Fortunately, yeah, the Fire Leech Bolas were able to get some work done. I don't know that they're really worth the extra cost here. Skin Wolves are definitely a danger, but so are Famir with great weapons, so you kind of have to plan for both, and it's a little bit tricky. Most Norscan units tend to be low armor, so the skirmishers of the Lizardmen will do very well here. That being said, though, of course, the Famir have 110 armor, and, you know, Mammoths also have quite a bit of armor as well, so we're trying to finish off these Brutes of the Hound. Of course, they're unbreakable, so they won't actually rout. But yeah, at this point, just trying to get a little bit of Wind's Magic here for one more Wind Blast, but I don't think we're going to be able to get away. The Skink Priest running for the hills here. You can see that huge Death Star of Norskins, and oh man, these Berserkers with their dual-wield axes out, man, that guy's having a proper party. He's having a great time, so yeah. Norsca definitely having a ball, pushing through. Is going to be a victory for Norsca. At this point, it was all I could do but just charge Kroq-Gar in here, try and save little Private Skink Buddy, and he's going to run to the hills, and Kroq-Gar is going to try and finish these guys off here. But Throgg, I mean, obviously with his anti-large AP, he can stand up. Ooh, and there came the Wind Blast, just took out a ton of those Marauders that were left. But the Famir and Throgg are the big danger, and Kroq-Gar goes down. So unfortunately, that is going to be a backbreaking blow for the Lizardman, and poor little Skink Chief here, or Skink Priest rather, who I thought might have been able to escape, did get caught by the Iceborne Marauders, and now is going to be finished off. So, of course, very well played to turn. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. It is going to be a defeat for my Lizardmen, and the Norskins showing their strength there in hunting the big dinos. Definitely think that you're not going to want to take a lot of dinosaurs against the Norskins. They just have so many anti-large and armor-piercing units. My turn didn't even bring any Skinwolves or Skinwolf Werekin in this matchup, both of which would probably be pretty decent. The regular Skinwolves, maybe not so much, but the Regiment of Renown Moss of Savagery especially would be super solid in this matchup. But the Famir with great weapons really ended up carrying there, and just combined with Throgg, they were able to push through. It still was a very close battle at the end of the day. You can see my Temple Guard did fairly well, and I do think that there's something to the Temple Guard. I probably would have maybe dropped one unit, just kept two, and maybe go a little bit wider, maybe cut these down to just regular Javelin Pterodon Riders, and then maybe get some Skink Skirmishers, the 400-point ones. Just give me a little bit more missile presence and skirmish on that initial phase. We would have been able to thin out the ranks of the Marauders a little bit more, which would have then allowed my Temple Guard to trade more effectively with the Famir, because the issue is the Temple Guard got some work done, but they just got mucked up in Marauder Berserkers and Marauder Champions and so on, so they weren't necessarily taking the fights that they really needed to. And then Kroq-Gar was left all alone to take all that damage there in the center pocket, so very rough stuff. Skink Javelins didn't really do a lot, but I didn't micro them super well. We should have honestly pulled back and tried to kite more favorable engagements, but it's all good at the end of the day. It's just an early access time anyway, so we're all trying new things, getting a feel for these new matchups. Of course, Norsca has 4 new matchups with the new factions from Game 2. 5, I guess, if you count the Tomb Kings. So we're going to be taking a look at those over the next few days. So we can kind of explore those a little bit, and you guys can speculate on how those matchups will play out. Of course, it's a little bit hard to tell within a small enclosed group like this, and also keep in mind that this build is not final. Some things can be tweaked and changed before release, so do keep those things in mind. But yeah, overall, definitely loving Norsca. And if you guys want to see more, keep it right here. Of course, I keep it coming with more Total War Warhammer 2 content every single day. If you like that sort of stuff, feel free to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, and all that jazz. We will indeed see you next time.